Hello, in this first section we will see how to set up the Gantt diagram, the capacity planner, where to set up the capacity of the machine, how to define which operation has to be done on the machine. So the first step is in the main data work type to define for each operation which is the unit of measure, which is the physical property that will be used to estimate the time required for that operation to be executed. One example, I consider the cut. Okay, for the cut here in calculation factor ID, I said to the program that I will estimate the time required to complete the cut operation based on the amount of square footage of each order or work order that it is. In the same way, for each operation, for tempering, we also put square feet. For bend, we say pieces. It means that we will evaluate the time required to complete bending operation, simply counting how many pieces and linking it to the capacity of the machine. For fabrication, there should be, for example, flat polish, calculation factor is inch, it means total length. So we will use the total length of the polishing operation to estimate the time required. So the definition of the calculation factor ID is the first step to set up the capacity planner. Well, second step is to define in planning settings the calendars. What are the calendars? The calendars define which are the working hours for each resource. As I said the first time, you are not, you don't have, it's not mandatory to have one calendar for each resource. You can have one calendar for all machines. It all depends on how your production works. If you have only one shift from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., then it's enough that you define one calendar. If you want to define a calendar for each machine, you can do it. It's just a matter of maintenance. Here in the screen you can see we defined 5 calendar, and I can already anticipate it's the 5 calendar for the 5 resources that we have defined. How it's made a calendar? First of all, by a name that is used simply to you to identify which is the calendar. Then you define on which day it affects. Can be all working days, all days, or define a different value for each day of the week. For each day you can define 3 shifts. For every shift you can define a capacity. The capacity in 99% of cases is 60. What does it represent, 60? It's the number of minutes available in 1 hour. So, for example, in this calendar cut Bystronic, I'm saying the system that the Bystronic, which is a cutting table, will work from 3 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. every day for 60 minutes per every hour. In the same way, we built up the calendar for all the other machines. For tempering works as cutting. To define a new calendar, it's enough that you click on new row. So we want to add cut to Romas. I define calendar name cut to Romas. I am going to tell which day. Okay, it will be all working day, and I go to tell it's from 03 to 11:30, capacity 60. It's done. So no more things to do. If I want to define a value for each day, it's enough that I click here Monday, and then I add a new condition for the other day, and I will do it for Tuesday, and repeat this operation for all the working day. We will see that the result is exactly the same. Not 11:30, but 03. Wednesday, then Thursday and Friday. So here I simply added one line for each day in case that there is one day different from the other. The result in any case will be the same as the previous calendar, for which you have one shift all working days from Monday to Friday. So for calendar, that's all. Let's see the main setting, which is the resource. What's resource? Resource is a station, workstation, where you perform some operation. Let's immediately see in the detail how it's a resource. A resource is made by a code, by a description. Then, resource group. You can create group of machines that made the same operation. For example, cat group, it's the group of all cutting table. This is just a way to better organize the production and a way that the capacity planner uses to use different color to group operation. In this database we have one group IG that belongs to both IG line. Then code description resource calendar. For each resource you go to define which is the calendar to be applied, and you see that from the drop down menu you have the list of all the calendar that we defined in the other window. Status is a status of the machine, where you can define the status of the machine. Active, the machine is working. Standby, the machine is not fully operational. Off, the machine cannot be considered for the capacity planner because it's broken or in maintenance or something else. Swap time. Swap time is a time interval which is considered between two operations on the same machine. For example, when you change material at the cutting table, you may want to foresee some amount of seconds or minutes just to organize the rack, change material, and so on. Now, this is the header data of the resource. Here below in this grid you have all the list of the operation that can be done, or let's say the list include all the operation that you defined in the work type menu. For each line there is a checkbox. You have to mark the checkbox for the operation that are foreseen to be done on the resource that you are defining. We are defining the resource cut table, so here we have marked the checkbox on the cut operation. I will go quickly to the other operation. Tempering resource is set that the operation made on this resource is the tempering. In the same way, for IG line we defined the close and assembly, and for bender the bending operation. Till now, hope everything is clear. Last but not least, where and how to enter the capacity of the machine. In the second detail tab, okay, you saw that there is one change. For each operation that we have marked the checkbox, you can define a table where the capacity can be fixed or can change depending on some property of the material. Here for the cut we have already foreseen a table where the capacity of the machine can be defined in relationship with the thickness of the material. For 108 it's 1300. Well, here it's 1300 for all the material, so we say that for all thicknesses we can have the same capacity. Capacity can be defined depending on the thickness, but also depending on any other physical parameter, by area, by material property. You may want to define a capacity for the float glass and another capacity for the Louis, because grind Louis removal may take a little bit more time. In any case, it's up to you to define which is the criteria. What does this number 1300 represent? This is the number of units per hour that can be done in this center. How is expressed the unit? Is the calculation factor ID that we defined in the work type menu. So for cat, this represents the capacity of square footage per hour. We can check the tempering one. Okay, magician, we made the same value, so the tempering is the same. For Bystronic, for assembling, where we say that the unit of estimation is the number of unit. Here I'm simply saying that this center Bystronic is able to work at 45 IG units per hour. Lysec one is able to work at 35, so the 2 IG line will work with different capacity. What does it mean? It means that one work order with 100 pieces will take something more than 2 hours for the Bystronic and something close to 3 hours for the Lysec. For the bender, the value of the capacity for the bending operation is 35. It means 35 spacer per hour. That's for the setting. I guess that's all. Just consider that for each resource you can define all the condition that you want depending on the material or on the other property, physical property of the glass.